In a typical web application, we have the concept of environment. So quite often, in most organizations, we have three environments. We have the development environment, which is used by developers. We have the testing environment, which is used by testers, and the production environment, which is where we deploy our application. Earlier in the course, we had a quick look at this environments folder. This is exactly to implement the concept of environments for our application. So now let's take a closer look at what we have here and how we can define additional custom environments. In this folder, we have two files, environment.prod, which is for production, and environment, which is used for development. Let's take a look at environment.ts. So here we're simply exporting an environment object with one property, production. Here we can have additional properties. For example, you may want to change the color of the navigation bar depending on the environment. This way, testers know that they're looking at the actual testing website, not the production website, so they don't accidentally modify some data in the production. Or you may want to change the name of the application in the navigation bar. You may want to add the word testing. Or perhaps you want to use a different API endpoint in your testing environment. You can add all these properties in this object. For example, I'm going to add navbar background color. So in my development environment, I want to make this blue. Now we should add the same property in our production environment. So let's go to environment.prod.ts and simply paste this property, but change the color to, let's say, white. Now back in the other file, you can read from this comment that when you build your application using Angular CLI and supply the environment flag, Angular CLI will pick one of these environment files and put it in our bundle. So we don't have to write any code to work with a specific environment object. Let me show you what I mean. So let's go to our navbar component. Here I'm going to define a field called background color. And I'm going to set this to the navbar background color of our environment object. So environment, auto import, look on the top. Here's a problem. Our auto import plugin specifically imported the production environment, and this is very dangerous. We don't want to use this. We want to use environment, and then when we build our application, Angular CLI will either pick this environment or environment.prod, depending on the environment we specify during building. So make sure to always import from environment. Okay. Now we set this background color to environment.look. We've got these properties here. So let's set it to navbar background color. And then let's go to navbar.html. Here on this nav element, I'm going to apply a style binding, style.background color. And I'm going to bind this to the background color field in our component. Now, if you want to see this in action, you don't necessarily have to build your application. You can still serve your application with ng-serve, but additionally, you need to specify the target environment. So when we run ng-serve, here the target environment by default is development. If you want to load your application in the production environment, you can add --prod. This is the short form for adding environment equals prod. So now Angular CLI is going to build our bundles using the production environment object. So back in the browser, you can see our navigation bar is white. But if you go back here and run ng-serve, now we're going to be in the development environment and our navigation bar is going to be blue. So back in the browser, look, this is our environment object in action.